Somebody's echoing.
Yeah, don't ask me what I'm drinking either.
Yeah, we won't. Yeah.
Yeah, we won't. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
All right. Well, I believe we're live, so Daniel, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us tonight on the first episode. Torah Made Flesh. I'm getting some serious feedback from somebody's speaker. Berkson from M.T.O.I. And we also have Curtis Reid from Bible Pathway Adventures. Sorry about that. And we also have Jason Jordan, who will be joining us here in a little bit. And I also have Tré Shepard with us. Where you at, Tré?
I'm right here. All right. Welcome everybody. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is we're running some new software too, so bear with us. But yeah, we want to get started with Rabbi. He's been on a little bit of a trip for the past couple of weeks in New Zealand and Australia, and he wants to give you guys an update and let you guys know what's going on with everything with M.T.O.I. and Curtis and Jason. So, Rabbi, take it away.
All right, I really appreciate the opportunity here to come together and be a part of your very first broadcast, and we pray blessings on its ability to reach people and help lead people towards our Creator and inspire them to do and to strive to do what's pleasing in His sight. Okay, so for those of you that know me, I'm so glad to be here. I want to say hello and greetings and shalom. If you don't know me, I want to just give you a little idea of what M.T.O.I. is all about and kind of why we're having this broadcast with us here. M.T.O.I. has a basic mission or vision of finding ministries around the world and putting together a platform for those ministries to come together with the idea of working together to serve the body in a more effective way. And so with that being our mission, our vision, our goal, I've been given an opportunity recently to come and be with Curtis and with Jason here. So I've been in New Zealand and in Australia, basically exploring the idea of whether or not these guys are, desiring and interested in taking advantage of the platform that M.T.O.I. provides. And so it's been a tremendous trip. Just got a couple of more days left of it. I flew out of Tennessee on January 1st, headed for New Zealand. I got there January 3rd and stayed there till January 11th, and I flew over here to Sydney. And actually, I'm in Camden, which is outside of Sydney. And we've had some tremendous meetings in both locations in New Zealand and in Sydney. Stayed there, so I'm excited to be able to not only talk to you a little bit about the trip and what I believe has been a very successful trip, but also to introduce you to two tremendous gentlemen and their ministries that are now desiring to join together and trying to figure out how we can, as leaders, provide a greater ability to serve and to, we want to wash a lot of feet, basically. So I wanted to, have this opportunity. I was so appreciative that the timing of your guys' first broadcast and you're wanting us to be a part of it, and it's really an honor and a blessing.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I just wanted to say I got a chance to talk with Curtis the other night. Tré and I did on Thursday night, and then again Friday. Me and him had about a 3.5 hour conversation, and it was pretty exciting to hear what all's going on over there and what the Father's doing in New Zealand and within their assembly over there, and him and his wife, and they got an incredible thing going on with their app and their website, and I would love for him to come on real quick and tell us a little bit about that, if you would, Curtis.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, thanks for having us on the program too. It's a real honor to be with you guys, and we had a great time, Steve and I, and the troops here, and we were really blessed to have him. And just to To bring in person a lot of the good stuff that M.T.O.I has been to a lot of people down here, and a lot of the material and the great teachings and the things that come out of just our relationship and association with M.T.O.I. From our perspective with Bible Pathway Adventures, really it's a great connection, and we've really enjoyed it, and it's I think the mutual sort of the mutual place that Steve and I meet and discuss things, and a lot of the good mentoring and teachings that he's been able to feed into us has just been well, it's hard to put a price on that sort of stuff, so you can't, but you do your vision. I think that's sort of the thing is going to be so to and the aim of that was to start to go through the biblical, some of the major biblical accounts. We've got about 14 of them up now. And if you go in and download the app and do all that sort of thing, you'll see what it's about. But we just put in historical and scientific, archaeological context to each of the biblical narratives. Pip, I always, I kind of say that, Pip does all the work and I take all the glory. She does a fantastic job with her authorship, and she acts as kind of a main driver in behind what we're doing there at the website, and then I act more as a creative director and spiritual input and that sort of thing, and go through some of the finalizations of the information and material that we release. So we've done that to help basically for discipleship, which was what we had been led to look as maybe something that was lacking in the body, just in the way of really trying to bring discipleship back into the home and equipping parents and leaders with tools and with material. And so we do this all for free. We give it for free, and we just rely on those who are led to support us and who find the information and materials useful. So it's been a fantastic journey so far, and now we deal with thousands of people all over the world in over 130 countries. And we have 14 of the stories. The adventure's already up. We plan to do 50, spanning both the Brit Hadashah and the Tanakh. Yeah, so that's pretty much where we're up to with things as they stand for now. We got some exciting things on the way. A lot of material has been requested to be put into print, so we're just trying to now look at how we can bring the adventures into a printed format, so that people can actually order books online and things like that, because we just had a tremendous demand for that sort of thing. So we're just trying to keep up with it at the moment.
That's super incredible, because I know as being a parent, there's not a lot of great teaching materials, especially from a Torah-based, from the base of the Torah, and it's all more mainstream, and it's not really all that groovy. So I greatly, from a parent's perspective, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I think the material is incredible. It's going to be awesome once you guys get it in the print format and be able to ship it out. But it takes time. But anybody out there that goes to BiblePathwayAdventures.com, check it out. And the app is totally for free. You download it. Is it just for iOS right now, or for iOS and Android?
We've got it on all platforms now, so it's pretty much whatever mobile device you have. It actually should work. And if you go onto the website, there's a lot of printable materials there, all sorts of material to work with in kids programs and things like that, and that's all for free. So you can just go in and download it straight off the website, use the materials. Like I say, we've just got thousands of parents that are downloading, using the material now, and so we're just trying to work in that space and in the transitional space too, because there's a lot of people right now asking questions around the world, regarding the foundations of their faith. So we're just trying to help with that journey as best we can.
That's awesome. Well, I'm sure Rabbi Steve has quite a bit to tune in on that, because he's been over there with you guys, and based on the pictures and all the things everybody's been sharing from these couple events, it looks pretty incredible.
Yeah, we Curtis and I contacted each other through Skype a little while back, and it's been a couple of years now, and we really had a kindred spirit. We really connected very well, and we've been encouraging each other and been accountable to each other. And that's really part of the M.T.O.I model is bringing leadership together, bringing accountability into play, learning from each other with the whole goal of serving the body more effectively. Now, one of the things that, Curtis does, and he shared that with you, is the BPA, okay, which is Bible Pathway Adventures. I think the video just switched to Tré somehow. Just wanted to point that out if anybody's noticed. Okay, so it's the Bible Pathway Adventures. And the other thing is that over time, with my encouragement, and I'm not taking any credit for this, but, we are put in positions at times to nudge each other, to kind of prod each other. And so I found out that, in the New Zealand area, and they're over in Wellington specifically, that Curtis was doing this tremendous discipleship program, a midweek type of a thing, a men's discipleship program. He still does. And I was very blessed to be able to go to one of those meetings a couple of weeks ago. And it was, again, I take no credit for this, but I know I was given the opportunity to prod and say, well, why don't we take that group? And this was a lot of guys who were just coming out of Babylon, just coming out of the church system, just beginning to see things through a Hebraic, Torah observant, sort of lens. And out of that, eventually got launched what's called the Shabbat, I guess it's called Shabbat Gathering. Okay, so, and there's a website for that. I think it's shabbatgathering.com. And so people can access that. Also, one of the great metaphors that Curtis likes to use is the metaphor of the talking donkey, and the fact that we're basically all a bunch of donkeys trying to figure a bunch of things out. So he's got a teaching ministry called The Donkey Speaks, and where you get to see his teachings. I think they're all on the Shabbat Gathering website. Is that correct, Curtis?
No. Yeah, they're on Shabbat Gathering. .com.
Okay.
Right. As well as the Bible Pathway Adventures. Right.
Okay, great. And so with that launched, the Shabbat Gathering deal launched, it was now a platform to bring someone like myself in to help see if we can't inspire more congregational launchings or find out where there are other congregations in New Zealand and see what we can do to help, again, with the idea of get them to work together. The body of Messiah, I hate to say this, but it almost looks like the body stepped on a landmine and got blown up, where a lot of very scattered pieces shattered everywhere. And we're not really looking a whole lot like a cohesive body. And so, M.T.O.I provides a platform that hopefully helps connect people together. We're not looking to control, manage, dictate, micromanage, or any of those kind of things. We're hoping to inspire the connecting of people together. One of the great things also is that it gives us an opportunity to help provide for the needs of some of you out there are what I would call isolated or disenfranchised or disconnected, because there really isn't anything for you to tie in with, within say 5, even 6 hours of where you live. And so what M.T.O.I is trying to do is come up with programs and plans to eventually try to bring things to your area so that you can have that kind of a relationship and interactivity. So it's all the way the Father has these divine appointments. He connects people together. I mean, the way I got connected with Daniel Hatt. Of course, Tré is a whole different thing. I know Tré since he was 3, so that's a little bit different deal. He showed up with his family to the very first Sukkot we ever hosted, and he's been to every one of them since. And, he's 19 now, going on 20. So, so I've known him most of his life, except for just a couple of 2-3 years. And he's a tremendous young man. I'm really proud that he's, working on this kind of a level to try to do things to lead people towards a better and deeper relationship with their Creator. So that's just great. But see, I would not know Daniel, and I wouldn't know Curtis, and I certainly wouldn't know Jason, who will be here in a minute, if it wasn't for the Father opening up those doors and connecting. And modern technology is really fabulous for that. I mean, I was planning already to go to New Zealand. I posted that on Facebook, and then Mark Brendan over here, Mark, he saw that posting and decided he was going to go ahead and shoot me a quick message and say, hey, as long as you're on this side of the world, what would you think about, coming over? I found out, by the way, Curtis, it's called going over the ditch. Yeah, so yes, that's what they call it over here. I flew over the ditch. Okay. I flew across the ditch from Wellington to Sydney, and I got an opportunity. So it worked out really great. So it's a fantastic thing. But what we're doing is we want to share with you guys, because wherever you are, wherever you're located, we want you to know that these things are available resources. We've got nothing to sell you. We're not looking to just build a membership because we have some other way of fleecing you. We genuinely desire to work together to be servants in a more effective way on behalf of the Father. My teachings, most of you probably are aware. If you're not, my teachings are available. YouTube, Podomatic, all these other places, they're all free. We even will mail them to you on CDs for free. Now, some of you will be thinking, well, how do you guys have any money? Well, we believe that Abba will inspire the hearts of those who he chooses to inspire to support what we're doing. Okay, so there are donation buttons on my website. There are donation buttons on Curtis's website, and so there's a way to support. And so we appreciate the support. The thing is that we're not wanting to be a part of the system that's always begging for, soliciting for, and trying to force the issue. We are on the model of, we work for the Father. The Father has all the gold, all the silver, cattle on 1,000 hills. If he wants to fund what we're doing, he can do it. Okay, so that's part of our model. I think we've all been marketed to and sold to enough. And so I was really excited when I met Curtis, because when I met him, their app had just gone from being something you paid for to being free. Before I even met him, they just made that change, because they had the same mindset that I had. So I take no credit for it. They had just made that decision before I even met him. I thought it was a fabulous decision. However, I would encourage you guys, if you're motivated, if you're blessed by something, hey, consider being a part of supporting that so other people can be blessed by it as well. And so this is just a tremendous opportunity. Now, wherever you live and wherever you are, contact us if you think that maybe what we're doing can be useful in your area. Maybe there's leadership that's missing. Maybe there's leadership that needs accountability. Maybe there's leadership that just needs someone to encourage them and help them along. Maybe there's no congregations at all, and we can help plug you in a more virtual way. There's so many opportunities that M.T.O.I is trying to bring forth. Now, one of the great things that has come together out of the meetings with Curtis and with Pip, his wife, is that Bible Pathway Adventures sits in a very interesting niche. It's part of, it's very appealing to Christians because it doesn't really push any overt Torah observance specifically, because it's going through Bible stories. So they're familiar with the Bible stories, but yet in a very straightforward way. They use Yeshua. They use other things that are not the normal terms that maybe Christians are used to. And what happens is they start to come a little bit out of that system. And as they come out of that system, some of them may just desire to go a little deeper. And then with our synergy, M.T.O.I has just started a program called Y M.T.O.I, which stands for Young Messianic Torah Observant Israelites. And in the Y M.T.O.I program, my wife and a fabulous staff of ladies have put together a children's program designed for ages 5 through 19, really primarily 5 through 12, but there's a lot of stuff also for the 13 through 19s. And it's a free program. It's on our website. And it synergizes because if the people might contact me and they need something a little bit more transitional, and I can point them in the direction of BPA. Or maybe people have family members who are not quite that excited about what you're doing in terms of Torah observance, and they don't want to do the weekly Torah portions, you can send them over to BPA. But then there are people that will contact Bible Pathway Adventures, and they'll want to say, well, where can we go from here? Where can I get more? And they can point them over to the Parsha Pearls program, which is the Y M.T.O.I program. So it's a really fabulous thing that when Father brings people together, he's bringing people with the skill sets that synergize to be more effective. And that's really, again, the I hate to say it like the mantra, the vision of M.T.O.I is that we've seen that the body has not had very effective leadership. We've seen controlling leadership, dictating leadership, micromanaging leadership, neglectful leadership, people that didn't even pay any attention to you or care about you at all. We are trying to address every possible way that we can be more effective. And by effective, I mean being a serving blessing in your growth and process of transforming from who you are right now into the image of the Messiah himself. And that's the vision. And in that vision, I've met two guys amongst a lot of other people we've met in Canada and the U.S. and other places. But these two guys here in the South Pacific are really, I think, terrific, and they're desiring to be a part of that vision of serving and working together and to be a blessing to the body. And so I'm really excited about, we're just launching this. We're just getting excited about, what will happen in New Zealand, what will happen in Australia. I know there are already plans for me to maybe come back again, maybe a year from now, and that would be just terrific. There are other people in other parts of Australia that we didn't get to see. There's people in other parts of New Zealand that we really didn't get to see. Because, I'm learning a lot about geography. I know about the North Island and the South Island, and I know where Auckland is and Wellington is, and Christchurch and Nelson and all these different towns, Otaki and Palmerston North and Hamilton. It's incredible. I would never have known where these places are. And I'm over here in Australia. I know where Sydney is and Camden and some of these other places. So, and by the way, you might not have known this, but both of them have blue mountains. The reason that's funny, the reason that's funny is because Curtis lives in the Blue Mountains in New Zealand. And when I talked to the guys here, they said, "Hey, by the way, we're going to take you up into the Blue Mountains." I said, "I'm in the Blue Mountains," because I was in New Zealand at the time. So both the Camden area or this area over there have the Blue Mountains. So I'm learning a lot of geography, which is really great. So that just gives you, hopefully somewhat of an idea. We're still waiting on Jason. He got a little held up with traffic and some other things. So he'll be here in a little bit. But I'm going to turn the mic back over to you, Daniel.
Cool. Hey, that's pretty incredible. I'm grateful that, obviously I got to meet you, and we got to get together and then get to meet Curtis. This is and Tré. That's awesome. The Father does amazing things all the time. It's pretty incredible. I did want to ask Curtis, what as far as discipleship and what's going on over in New Zealand, what's kind of your goal for trying to grow the discipleship over there for the people coming out of kind of Christianity or wherever they're coming from? How you guys going to go about trying to get them fed like they need to be fed?
Yeah. Well, what we found was, look, it was probably about 5 years ago where the Father was really working with me, and where my heart was and where my journey was, and about 7-8 years ago, I went through some very serious fires in my life, and you start asking a lot of questions. In the fire, if you can find a place of repentance while you're in the fire, we can always opt out and try and deal with things ourselves in the flesh. And, I was struggling not to do that too, especially given what I was going through at the time. But I would say that, if just a little bit of us can be in a place of repentance or teshuvah, our fire is going on. Maybe, I'll speak for myself, but this donkey tends to hear a bit better when perhaps there's less of him in the picture, and more inquiring truly what I need to look at in my own life. And so I looked in the mirror and spent a lot of time looking in the mirror, and a lot of things I didn't like doing that process. And as I was going through my own journey into Torah and understanding the foundations of my faith, and through all of that, it was more a sense of, when are you gonna look at doing it, my way, Curtis? And so I sought to really try and understand that, and what was it that Yeshua patterned scripturally? Why was he here in the flesh? Why was the Torah here in the flesh? And demonstrating to us how this was done. And, I often challenge a lot of the guys now that I enjoy our fellowship with and discipleship with, and I challenged them initially, and I said, well, I can't think of any more time that has been spent on any single subject in all of Scripture than patterning and modeling discipleship in the flesh. And I couldn't help but think that this must be a priority to the Father if this much time, an example in the centroid of, the very blood that bought us and covers us, and how this is going to be walked out and modeled out. And so that hit me. And so I went on a journey of trying to understand this scripturally, instead of a lot of the stuff that I picked up over the years coming from the Christian side of the riverbank, as I like to put it. And you pick up a lot of things. And, there's things on that side of the riverbank, like life groups, and, home groups, whatever you want to call them, right? There's some group going on. But to be honest with you, true discipleship is more than just a gathering. Discipleship does have gathering, and it can be just simply that. But when I started to get into the essence of discipleship and what it looked like from the most intimate levels of the marriage covenant right through to international ministry, I started to realize that all of this was discipleship, but there was a middle ring, a piece that was missing. And Yeshua really came to demonstrate and to re-show us that piece, and especially in a modern sense. We're 2,000 years on from this, and we're very disconnected, a Western modern world. We've generally, a lot of us, like myself, have had the Christian teachings, not so much like Steve, who's come from the other side of the riverbank, as I like to put it. We can talk a bit more about that a bit later. But really, it was a matter of looking at what had been essentially counterfeited or taken out. And this was this model of 12, with the 12 disciples and what he showed there. And so I really was just kind of inquiring and looking and reading. And as I was doing that, I was asking the Father, well, then, show me how this is done. And so this is where the whole donkey thing comes up, because we are a work in progress. We don't claim to have it perfect, and nor would we. I think we can. I think we'll continue to grow and improve and mature on what we do. But what we have seen is unique, and it's been fantastic. And we've seen men come out into an environment where they can be in a safe, trusted, loving environment, but one where men can be men, and we can learn how to be men again. I think a lot of the body, certainly on the Christian side, has been feminized. I don't know what nice way I can put this, but I think we've got to stop being sissies and start becoming men again. And so you have to allow an environment that allows us to almost relearn, I think, what the Father always wanted us to learn. And so we started to put that in play. And hey, look, you're going to get your hands dirty when you start getting there. There's a lot of vomiting that comes out of the mouth of what you think you know or what you have in you from all the years. For me, I've been teaching scripture for 25 years, and the vast portion of that I've had to get a lot of reproof and correction on, and revisit what I thought I'd known. And even my relationship with Steve, fantastic, because he provides and pushes back, gives me some of that accountability there, and every once in a while even I've got something to add. But it's that sort of an environment. So you put in this accountability and the discipleship, and what does it look like at the various levels? And so I look back at this 12, this sort of 12 model, and almost all of the men now have come out of, at least in our men's fellowship, have journeyed out of just a Christian upbringing and starting to look seriously now at the foundations of their faith. And so as they've been doing that, it's just been growing and growing. And Steve got a chance to enjoy some of the men. A lot were away at this time of the year too. But to be honest with you, that's kind of a good thing these days, because we're struggling really it's almost getting where it's you get too many people in the same room. So we kind of work that out and how that looks now. And so we're kind of figuring it out. But it's what we'd call a true midrash environment. We don't play around. It's and it's okay if people don't understand or they don't agree or they're just investigating, they're looking. That's okay. I say if I've got to agree with someone in order to fellowship with them, then that's going to be a problem. Because if the only place I can meet somebody is where I agree with them, because I've always, as I taught the guys, if I agree with you, that doesn't make you right. Just because I agree with you, and just because I disagree with you, it doesn't make me right. And so we need to find out what the Father says and what He thinks right. And so if we don't allow a safe environment for this to contend and to be in a place where, sometimes you're just not going to say things politically correct. We've been so watered down now that you almost learn to behave in a way that's almost disingenuous. And so it's about allowing and trying to create that genuine environment, which I think is more the ancient biblical model of, midrash and discipleship. And so we've got to learn how to get back there. And so that's the journey been there, to try and get back to that and try and put that in play. But then there's a reality right through what I call the tree rings, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But it kind of exists at every level, from the marriage union and our relationship with Yeshua, and our marriage to the kids, to the to our closer threes, and then the 12s, and then the 70s, and then right out to the Sermon on the Mounts, and the the letters to the wider ecclesia, or kahal, or the church, if you will. So I don't know if that gives you a little bit more of a feel, but that's kind of sort of where it's at.
Well, yeah, and that's amazing. I think the big thing that you hit on was the accountability thing. We don't. It seems like there's not that in the churches anymore. There's that feminization thing of the men, and the men's just not being men, and they're not being able to stand up. And then you don't have a man that's able to, you're to be accountable to, because they're kind of feminized and they don't want to say the wrong thing or hurt your feelings, and that's got to stop. Look, the guys in the Bible, they were tough guys. They were. I mean, look at David. It's. If we're supposed to model ourselves after, ultimately these guys, and then you have the Messiah that we're to model ourselves after, hey, he by far, don't mistake kindness for weakness. He was very clear on how a man's supposed to act. And I think that's great having Steve there, because there's a lot of things that I realize that I've been taught that I can bounce off him. And it's like, oh, wow, that totally is not how I was taught that, and I think that's incredible, because the aspect that you use of the two sides of the river, I really enjoy that, because it really is. You got this side, the Gentiles, nations kind of coming in out of this paganistic kind of society, and then you have people that's come from more of a Jewish background or Orthodox or however that looks. And look, let's face it, that background has a lot of things that we never learned, throughout time. And that's what the idioms and just the things that are in the scripture that, the mainstream Christianity thinks means one thing, which totally don't even mean that. And I think that's just, very incredible to have him as an asset and as an accountability, where you can go to and kind of kick things back off. And he ain't scared to tell you if you're wrong or tell you to buy pants. It just works out that way. So, anyway, did Jason ever show up yet?
Okay, he's not here yet, but
Okay.
I do want to say a few things about what Curtis said. And listen, sometimes you have to be the guy that makes you buy a pair of pants. What can I tell you? And actually, I can't even take credit for that. The Rebbitzin was the one that really pushed the issue, not me. So I'll give her the credit. And actually, speaking of a pair of pants, I left my pair of pants, one of them anyway, Curtis is over there in New Zealand. So if you need another one, Daniel, you can go pick it up from Curtis. I left a pair over there in Wellington.
Yeah, maybe one of these days I'll make it over there.
Yeah. Now, really, one thing I want to get into to help introduce you to Curtis is that, okay, so everybody that I believe, has an anointing or an appointing, they have an anointing and an appointing for very specific either understandings or gifts or talents. And, Curtis has some really, I think, valuable metaphors that he uses to do what he does. Now, let's understand that discipleship is not a men's Bible study. Okay, discipleship is men coming together and being able to be vulnerable and expose what they're really dealing with in front of other men, and to deal with their real issues in a real way. And they can do things the way men do them. They can pick on each other and they can tease each other, but they do it all after doing the most important thing, a relationship. You see, what we seem to miss is that everything that's been going on since the creation of the universe is about a relationship. The creator of the universe wants a relationship with us, but he also wants us to have a relationship with each other. And we've not done very well with either. Now, certainly a lot of us who have come into Torah observance have worked on the mechanics of it. In other words, you may have made your switch from Sunday over to Saturday. Maybe you made some switches about the feasts that you keep. You don't do Christmas and Easter anymore. Now you're doing the Levitical feasts of Passover and unleavened bread, Shavuot, etc., Trumpet, Atonement, Sukkot. You've done some other things, but maybe eating differently, so you're not eating pork and shellfish, whatever. But have we done a whole lot to develop our relationships? You know, Yeshua talks about the two great commands. And they're really not two individual commands. They're the two overriding and all-encompassing ideas of the commandments. The one being understanding how to love our Creator with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our being, with all our strength, everything. And also how to love each other, how to love your neighbor as yourself. And so it's all about relationship. And in that understanding, what Curtis has done in New Zealand, and yes, I probably have taught him a bunch of things, but I learned so much about this missing element. I have not done enough to do discipleship. As a matter of fact, for those of the men that are out there that know that they've taken, we did a 22-class introduction to discipleship last year, and that class was inspired by the dozens and dozens and dozens of conversations I had with Curtis about what he was doing. Because where I had not focused on it, it was his primary focus. And I came to realize that, yes, indeed, this is a huge missing element, and probably the main reason for the mess that we have in the Messianic is that discipleship is not being done. And so in that model of discipleship, he uses tree rings. And if you look at tree rings, you have circles inside of circles going around. And at the center of the tree rings, and he could teach and explain this, I'll just give you an idea, because he mentioned a few times, you know, you've got the three. It's kind of like Yeshua with James, John, and Peter. You know, you got those three key closest ones. Then outside of that ring, you've got the 12. And they're really close too. And then outside of that, you've got the 70. Then outside the 120. And we have different relationships with people based on where they are in relation to us in closeness and discipleship and that kind of thing. Not that we have different relationships because we say, well, if you're not inside this ring, then we can't fellowship with you. No, there's just an intimacy that develops at those different levels. And so there's a much closer intimacy in the 3 than there is in the 12. And in the 12 than there is in the 70. And so as people develop this intimacy, you move through the ring from the idea is that everybody's supposed to move from the outside to the inside. Did I explain that right, Curtis? You can nod. All right, was that good? Okay, good. All right, he's nodding his head. All right, so, and he can explain in some more detail. But what I would like him to explain, and we'll use this to launch as we're waiting for Jason to get here, I'd love you to hear his analogy and understanding about the river. See, everybody in ministry tends to use certain, here's Jason. All right, great. So everybody, well, fortunately they couldn't see you, just kissed me on the head. Okay, so we'll turn the camera.
Hey buddy, how are you?
There's Jason.
Shalom.
All right. So before I get to Jason, we're going to finish off with what I was going with Curtis. I'd love Curtis to explain his use of this tremendous metaphor called the river and the riverbanks. You'll learn a little bit about this incredible creature called the flying fox and how dangerous that is. But, Curtis, if Dan doesn't mind, I'd love for you to explain this in a brief way, what you use this metaphor of being in the rivers of living water and being on those riverbanks, etc.
Okay. Well, I'll try and keep it as succinct as I can, at least as a just kind of showing it, and then other conversation we can take it from there. Because my teachings just on this metaphor is a couple of parts alone over a few hours. So, but we'll try and shrink it down a little bit here. But basically, what I believe I was being shown years ago was just to understand that I'd come from one side of, there's this whole spirit and truth thing that goes on. The Father says, I desire to worship you in spirit and truth. And I was seeking that at the time and trying to understand how he wants this to play out in our lives. And that's where the whole journey of discipleship came in. And then I started to look at, well, what was the arena that it was being done in? You're starting to understand that actually, you've got people that are both accepting or looking to understand their Messiah, but they're coming at it from very different perspectives. One essentially has thrown out the foundations of their faith or the Torah, and the other is basing their faith in the Torah on it, and yet in some cases not even recognizing certain aspects of what the Messiah had brought in regarding things that the Testament that we see in the Brit Hadashah. So often what I found was that the communication was basically at these two banks, and one's yelling, I'm right, and the other one's, you're wrong, and this is all going on. And I started to realize that in my own walk, I needed to hear that other riverbank, because there was some truth in there that I had not learned or understood in my journey to date. I was too busy kind of writing it off, that's Jewish, or that's this, or, whatever. And a lot of these mantras that we learn in ignorance, essentially, in our Christian walk, gives us an excuse to almost not look deeper at the foundations of our own faith. We learn doctrine, and now we've got 30,000 plus denominations. How many cuts in the body do we need and variations do we need to maybe realize that we're on shaky ground? So what I started to do was to go, well, instead of yelling at the other riverbank and telling them how wrong they were and how right I was, that I needed to find a way to be able to stop the noise in my own head and get into the analogy of the river, where you have this living life and where Yeshua starts to bring the Torah to life and the Brit Hadashah an understanding of what this is. And so I tried to get in the river, but when you the thing I found is that there's this thing called a flying fox, and it's like a device that you can take and you can swing across from one bank to the other. And I found that there were people doing that. So, and as they started to see that maybe they hadn't been told a lot of things on the Christian side, or even been hurt or burnt by it, or saw the hypocrisy in it, or whatever was going on, they didn't want to throw out, obviously, their faith and their understanding of God at the time, but they get on this flying fox and they get over the other side of the riverbank, and next thing you know, they may be picking up some of the baggage on that side, and again, could have missed the river. And so what I was being shown was, and it was tempting, but was to not take the flying fox, but to actually get in the river. Now, here's the analogy of the river. There's life in the river. If you've ever dipped your leg or toe or whatever into a cold river, okay, you kind of like, you kind of freeze up a bit, right? And the water could be going a little bit fast, and there's a few rapids, and this doesn't feel so comfortable, but it's refreshing. There's something going on that's starting to bring you life and starting to wake you up out of this sleepiness or this lethargic, what I call Christian Talmud that I was in, teachings and precepts and all the doctrines that come on the Christian side of the riverbank. And I started to just be able to go, okay, so what is this? And in that moment, I could start to hear some of the argument from the other bank. The problem was that they weren't, because they're standing on the bank, they're not being able to hear the good stuff that had come with me, because it wasn't all. Just because something is Talmud or teaching or understanding that comes out of our journeys doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong or against the Father. It's not all bad. But the problem was that it was only in the river where I could start to hear the other side. But what I was discovering was they weren't hearing me. So I had to find a way to coax them into the river. Now, it's not comfortable in there initially. And I say people that spend enough time in the river, we teach each other how to swim. And we ride the rapids together, and we kind of avoid the rocks, and eventually it starts to smooth out, and it starts to come to a delta. And I believe our Messiah is standing at this delta. His name's Yeshua HaMashiach. And he's there waiting to mature and to grow us. But I had to find a way, and so that's where the discipleship really sort of came in from both banks, because this was the biggest surprise. I'm in the river now, And I've got both sides hurling rocks at me. And they don't want to know anymore. So now the ones on the bank that I'd come from are going, no, you're going all crazy or whatever. They're not hearing, and they can't hear. So I found in the discipleship environment, which I had to learn, it was almost like he forced my hand. I had to find a way where I could actually say, guys, don't take this flying fox back and forth, and miss this. Come into discipleship, come into the river. And this is why. And so it's those principles. And eventually, a number of the men started to dip their toes. They stopped screaming like little girls. They started getting in the river, and they started to actually go, okay, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden, they start to realize, wow, I'm in this thing. I better actually start learning to help the person beside me, not stick my hand on him, push him underwater because I think I'm drowning. It's more like you're in a river where everybody's trying to make sure there's no way you're going to drown, right? Because the very nature of being in there is making sure that everyone keeps their head above water, everyone keeps swimming this thing together. There's some rapids. Let's maneuver them together. Let's do that sort of a thing. So this whole analogy of trying to get people in the river, instead of maybe coming out of Christianity, taking a flying fox, and then going into the other bank without any consideration for certain things along the way, and any serious accountability while they consider those things, and vice versa. And so that's where I really think the discipleship ground sits, is in that place. It's living, and we've seen a lot of fruit from it. And like I say, we don't claim perfection. We don't claim to know it all, but the fruit's been tremendous, right through from how they're able to minister to their own families, maybe in their own ministries, to, their marriages and things like that. So lots of good stuff. Anyway, I'm kind of just trying to shorten that up a bit because I'm conscious now that we've got our other guest here. But anyway, I hope that makes a bit more sense anyway. We can talk about it a bit more detail as we go on.
Yeah, I'd like to just jump in there real quick. So just to help, sometimes it's helpful to have two people say the same thing with a little bit different way of putting it. So just the way it clarifies for me is that what you have is the river of living waters. That's where the life is. That's where the truth is. That's where Yeshua is. But we have people that are on the either bank of a river. Picture a river with two river banks. And you're either on the bank because that's the way you were raised and you kind of grew up on that river bank, or your preferences are on that riverbank. The I likes, the I wants, the I don't likes, the I don't wants. What happens at times is, as you're starting to learn about your side of the river, you may realize, I don't really like it on this side of the river. And instead of getting in the river, you see a flying fox that looks all tempting, and you catch a ride on the flying fox to the other side of the riverbank. And there are verses that talk about, basically going from one ditch into another ditch. But yet it looks like you're actually getting in the river, and then hopefully there's guys like you guys who are putting the show on, Curtis, Jason, myself, who are trying to flag down the people that are flying and saying, hey, come down here. The river is where you need to get in. You don't need to be chasing the flying foxes. You need to get in the river. And so I love the analogy. I think it's fabulous. But anyway, so we've got, if it's okay with you, Daniel, I'll go ahead and introduce Jason. Okay, good. And so I'm over here in Australia. And I've been really, really taking great care. By the way, it's 87 degrees here. I'm suffering horribly, as it's, I know it's winter where a lot of you guys are, but because I see Daniel's nice thick hat on his head and everything, he's all freezing. But actually in Chattanooga, it's 60, so it's actually not that cold in Chattanooga either. But it's 87 here, although it was about 107 a couple of days ago. It's going to be close to 100 tomorrow. So it is kind of hot here in Australia. But when we started the show, I did mention that there was a gentleman here that I was so excited to get connected with as one of the leaders here in the greater Sydney area. His name is Jason Jordan. He leads a congregation, a fellowship here called M.T.O.I. And
you pronounced it right too. Thank you.
I've been here a couple of days. I've learned how to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, I don't have the accent right yet, but that's okay. But anyway, let me introduce Jason to you. Jason, what I'd love you to do is introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what's going on here in Australia and what you've been doing, and how you feel about the opportunity of taking advantage of the platform that M.T.O.I provides.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rabbi Steve. Yeah, I've been actually watching the broadcast on the drive out over here. So I'm up to speed with everything you guys have been chatting about, and it's great to be on Torah Made Flesh. It's my Shamish Mark who really deserves all the credit here, apart from our father, in making contact with Steve. And we've just gone off here, have we? No, we're still on. All right, cool.
No, we're still good.
Beautiful. So pretty much I've been in this walk for probably about 13, 14 years, and we have a small congregation out at Camden, which is pretty much close enough to Sydney, so it's a Sydney congregation, and we have about sort of 20, 25, maybe 30, depending on, thanks brother, depending on the day, regular attendees. For high holy days we get more people, of course. Since if we get international speakers out here, we get probably between 60 and 80 people. So there's about 4 other fellowships in the local area. And for a long time, as you guys have been talking about, it's just been a real struggle to just sort of get momentum and to sort of build any type of rhythm, a battle rhythm, I think they call it. And, it's one of the smallest religious movements. I don't know, can't speak for the rest of the world, but certainly in Australia, and it just seems to be one of the movements that's just constantly dogged by so many issues, which to me really sort of validates what it is we're doing. We really should have died sort of years ago with all the things that have gone on and sort of buffeted us, but we've managed, the anchor's managed to hold, and we're sort of getting a little bit of traction now. But now with what Steve's been, what he's sort of planning with the M.T.O.I platform, as you guys talk about it, I think it's fantastic. It's a good opportunity for all of us sort of to get on the same page. As he said, it's not about micromanaging. It's about keeping things as fluid as possible, but checking in with each other. And I think it's once every 2 weeks, you were saying, we get together and we just basically check in. Let you guys know how numbers are here, what issues we're sort of dealing with, what might be on the horizon, and basically communicating with one another and having less and less sort of rogue sort of home fellowships sort of floating around, and being aware of one another, being cognizant of what the other groups are doing, what doctrines are kind of floating around, and just being unified. There's just so many sort of home fellowships that we've got here. There's plenty of people out here that are interested in the Torah, want to keep Torah, want to follow Mashiach, but there's just so many different kind of branches of our faith. There's sort of the Messianic, sort of a wider umbrella, sort of a term that kind of I think you can have a Messianic Catholic now. It's just a really wide umbrella. We chose the name Netzarim Antasy, Nazarenes of Australia. Netzarim, a Hebrew word, of course. Antasy is a Greek word, and we just sort of tried to sort of pinpoint Yeshua he was a Nazarene, so we thought we'd sort of have that in the title. I think we've got Messianic Family Fellowship, which is at St. Helens Park, which is not far from us. But there's about 4 other fellowships that I know of, and apart from one, our communication and interaction is quite poor, and that really needs to change. It really needs to change, and there's a real earnest. There's not enough earnestness to do it, and the best way I can illustrate why it's so important for us to lock ranks and have each other's back, and to move forward as a cohesive body of people is best solidified in this story that I heard recently, and it was a city had been marked for destruction, and one of the angels came back from the city and said, hang on, we can't destroy this city. I've just found that there's 10 righteous people in the city. And so Yahweh said, there's 10 righteous people in the city, is there? And the angel said, yes, there's 10 righteous people in the city. Are you sure marking the city for destruction is the way to go? And the reaction was that if there's 10 righteous people there, then why is the city so wicked that it's eligible to be destroyed? What are these 10 people doing? Are they communicating with one another? And so the decree was that these 10 righteous people would be destroyed first. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term judgment first. Judgment first starts at the house of Yahweh. And so it's as critical as that. We need to let what we're into what we're finding out, all this beautiful revelation that we are getting that is soaking us and making us so rich. We need to let it get outfield. We can't remain insular anymore. We need to make contact with people, and we need to be interested in one another. We need to have a real zeal to have each other's back and really sort of be accountable to one another, I guess. And I think once we can get a handle on that, which I think what Rabbi Steve is proposing with his platform and his ministry, I think we're going to make a lot of headway, and I'm really excited to be a part of that. And I know Mark is as well. In the meantime, I'm just going to quickly shamelessly plug our website. Mark's put together a fantastic website. It's called netroomantasy.com. I'm not going to bother spelling that for you. You can also get there via messianic.com.au. Make sure you put the AU, and you can go on there and check us out and find out a little bit more about us. I can only imagine that in the next couple of weeks we're probably going to tweak it a bit so we can lock in together with this platform and have some advertise some of the other fellowships on our broadcasts and on the web and things like that. But yeah, it's a marvelous opportunity, and through the Heavenly Father's grace, He's allowed us to have Steve just swing out over the ditch and hang out with us for a week. And it was really, we've had a really great last 2 days. The 2 days of the Sabbath and the Sunday, they were really successful, weren't they, Mark? We made a lot of new contacts. And the more we can get international speakers like Steve out here, the more it begins to swell interest in what's going on. And that can only have a positive effect. But it'd be great if we can get him out here within the next year with his whole family and get his daughter to come and lead praise and worship. That'd be fantastic. Journey on. So there you go. That's supposed to be all. There you go.
All right. Well, listen, it's a great opportunity here. I really want to just also encourage you again. It's Messianic, singular, Messianic dot.
Yeah, we try to make it as simple as possible.
Messianic.com.au. Okay. And then you can find the teachings there that Jason has done, etc. Also, they have a Ustream, but they're going to be switching to, I think, YouTube.
We are, absolutely. Very soon in the next couple of weeks.
Right. So I think that's going to make their live stream even more effective. And so part of what we do with M.T.O.I is we help bring some of our understanding and experience that can really make things be even more effective. And we do the same things with some of the things that are going on with Curtis there in New Zealand. And again, wherever we can, we have the opportunities, that'd be just fabulous. And so, of course, I've learned a lot of things being in Australia. Like, basically, some of the things that happened was almost like being hit for a six. So. Yeah.
He's trying to pick up the lingo all the time, but it's hilarious.
See, I know what it means now to be hit for a six, and of course, I also learned cricket. No. Although I did meet some of the vortex birds, but I got. We'll explain this another time. But we're having a great time here. We're having a great time here, mate. I gotta figure out how to talk. Yeah.
It's great to hear the things that you have to say, Curtis, as well. I've briefly spoken to Pip on Facebook, and you've got to get on Facebook, man. Is he on Facebook yet?
Yeah, by the way, you had a Friday deadline. Are you on Facebook yet? All right, you're fired. I got the white flag. He's got the white flag.
Yeah, so it'd be good for us to just chat, me and you, Curtis, some other time. We'll get together and have a chat and just see where each other's at and everything. But it's a booster shot, isn't it? Getting these guys out is a real booster shot, and it just makes sort of a groundswell of excitement, and we just got to sort of ride that as much as we can and get people excited and just sort of use it, really. And we're going to use this guy.
In case you may be disappointed that Curtis does not have what you might picture as a strong New Zealand accent. It's because he's actually Canadian.
Oh, yeah, no,
and he's transplanted into New Zealand. He's from British Columbia.
Is he the Molly Meldrum of the? Do you know who Molly Meldrum is?
No.
Molly Meldrum. Do you know who Molly Meldrum is, Curtis?
No.
You don't know who he is. He's sort of like a pop sort of idol interviewer, and he always wears a hat. So I thought you might be the new Molly Meldrum of the Messianic movement. So I don't know, maybe I'm just.
No, listen.
If you don't know who he is, it doesn't really.
I did get Curtis to wear his iconic hat. So that's That was part of what I
It's
said
cool,
to him. You
man.
got to wear the hat. I love that hat.
Although Daniel's beanie looks really cool. It looks very cool. Is that like a Breslov thing you've got going on there?
No,
It's just a Carhartt.
Oh, okay. It's one of those sort of designer, tight-fitting designer beanies.
No, but I want one of those hats like Curtis has. I like Curtis's hat. And,
I think fashion is very important. You know, we've got
and actually,
more fashionable as well.
you have to understand, he's actually known for that hat. I mean, everybody knows him as wearing the hat.
Yeah.
So I asked him when he started, when we kind of rehearsed for today, just to make sure our systems were working. I said, Curtis, where's your hat? And by the way, you have to understand about the white flag. Show the white flag again, Curtis. You got the white flag. Is that Curtis and I, Curtis came to realize that I'm a very sarcastic wise guy, and I like to throw little zingers. And so he would tell me things like, I got the white flag up. He wouldn't actually have one at the time. So today he wanted to show me he actually has a white flag now. So no zingers while the white flag is up. And by the way, you can purchase the anointed white flag for just $1,000, Steve. Okay. It's anointed. That's it. And, guaranteed to protect you from zingers from sarcastic rabbis.
Yep.
Yeah. If you need protection from sarcastic wise guy rabbis, just $1,000 gets you handmade by Curtis straight from New Zealand.
They got the Christian cross thing going on with vampires. Well, this is what I have for my protection.
It's got a little space.
You did a great job on that. That's a great white flag. I love that. Every time I threw him a zinger while I was in New Zealand, he kept saying, I put up the white flag. I put up the white flag.
He's going to have to start mass producing them now.
See, the problem is, if he gives his personal testimony, he'll tell you that the rabbi ignores it anyway.
That's right. Well, that's all right. No, we had a great time over here. We had, in fact, I'm not sure, Dave, we were aware, but we had a meeting up the coast in a place called Otaki. And we had people from all over New Zealand join us, that had traveled quite a way to come and be with us. So we ended up having quite a gathering. And from what I understand from the guys over in Aussie right now, that they enjoyed quite an excellent Shabbat as well. We called it Extreme Shabbat over here because we were doing a number of teachings and things like that. But we've had some fantastic feedback. And we weren't touching on some pretty serious subjects, Steve. We had a part one, and where to go. The people sharing or teaching on something. If you don't agree or if you don't understand, there's still there's a close enough connection where people can follow up, and it's not unreachable. It's not like you just go and someone says something and then that's it. Even the environment in the wider rings, in the discipleship sort of rings, I still think there needs to be some accountability there between, at the leadership and teaching levels, but also too to the ability for people to ask questions and feed in. And so, because we are a scattered remnant, as Jason was saying, we're kind of, we're all over the place, and it is a remnant, and there are some people that are coming faith deeper now, and in some cases they have no one. There's no one in their area, at least not that they're aware of. And so, at least if there's something like M.T.O.I or a BPA or a local fellowship and things, and they can be made aware of these things and can connect in, not just from a newsletter perspective, but actually from a relational perspective, and to be able to start to mature and grow that all over the place. And it's what I love about Steve's vision when he was sharing with me, behind M.T.O.I, was that, we want to help the body to be more effective and to be able to serve it. And it's certainly been my heart, and I certainly know it's everybody on this, broadcast's heart, to actually see this become real. And it's needed and it's necessary. For some reason, I don't know why it is on both sides of the riverbank, but leadership seems to be walking without accountability. And I don't think that should be the case. I think that we need to be accountable. And we need to have discipleship structures in play however they look, within the rings as best that we can, we can, so that we can actually make disciples of nations. I often say now when I meet other leaders and things like that, they've got whatever it is that they're been led to do and whatever it is they're doing, and it doesn't matter which side of the riverbank, but one of the first questions I now have for them is, tell me about your discipleship, brother. Sister, I'm sure your credentials are great. I'm sure you've got some great revelation here, and I'm sure you're a mighty teacher here, or you're doing this or that, or wherever they think they may be. But really, at the end of the day, I'm not quite sure how I or anyone else ultimately gets away the very thing that our King patterned. I'm not sure how it is I can stand up and talk about discipleship unless I'm willing to engage in it in a way that he patterned it myself. And so, the whole idea behind what we do is, instead of being just purely critical of that, is to actually try and help it get in place and to encourage people to do it, and to not be scared of it. We need this. And so I kind of give an analogy with the donkey speaks sort of thing, that, we all have a donkey in front of us and we've got a donkey behind us, and let's respect the donkey in front of us, and let's help the donkey behind us. Let's learn how to do this so that people can look at us and they can know us by how they love one another, not by how we argue, what's the name of the Father, and we're just having these big arguments, or what's the latest, trend of, looking at, some particular subject matter. And I'm not saying we should be scared of any subject matter. I think all things that are mentioned in Scripture are there and can be discussed. But I see more and more sometimes, without the accountability in play amongst leadership, and be led into places, camped in these spaces, and we're living in these spaces, and we're forgetting about the maturity and the growth that comes from what he patterned, and the accountability that comes with that, and the responsibility that is inevitably leads to our growth. Because if we're not growing to the matureness of Messiah, then I'm not quite sure whether I'm going to get a quiz on how much Curtis Reid knows or thinks he knows when he stands before the King. Because from what I can see in Scripture, we're ultimately going to head for a heart judgment, and I'm ultimately going to have a circumcised heart, or I'm not. And I'm not sure if that's something that can be faked on the moment I stand before him. And so, we've got this thing here where we when I meet people like Steve and Daisy and you guys, we're hopefully, we're on a page where we're all starting to realize this. I mean, if we took the amount of knowledge that might be even sitting on this broadcast just in itself and thought, well, that's our criteria for a great judgment seat in front of Messiah, I think we would be mistaken, no matter how much we know or think we know. I think ultimately we've got to go through this process of refinement, sanctification, or sanctifying, the circumcision of the heart. And so it doesn't matter what we address along the way and what subject matter needs to be. I know people are called into areas and to look in those areas. But my real encouragement is as we do, let it not come at the expense of a more intimate, a discipleship model with more integrity and more accountability. Because if it comes at the expense of that, then our own growth, our own circumcision, and helping others with theirs, and this whole way of learning how to be a community can get lost. And my heart and my heart's desire, I believe, aligns with the Father on this. I certainly know it aligns with Steve on this. Him and I, we have, how many hours have we been in fellowship, brother? We do it quite, our midrashing's quite, it's pretty black and white. We love each other, but, we're not itching each other's ears, and quite frankly, sometimes I don't need my ears itched. Sometimes I need to hear something like it is, or whatever it might be. And you've got to be around those people that are not only willing to do it, but have grown and matured to be able to do it. And to be in that environment, because it does become safe. And like I say, it's not about, Steve and I agreeing on everything. or I understand every place he's coming from, or vice versa. But what we have found is when we're willing to engage and we're willing to get into a midrash in this place of discipleship at that level, we often find we're arriving at the same spot, but we've come from different perspectives. And Steve and I kind of laugh. We call it the two sticks, Ezekiel 37 and the prophecy of Ezekiel 37, where the two sticks are coming together. And we kind of actually live this out in a very real way. And so we do find that actually we are arriving at the same place, but he's had his line of view and I've had mine. And yet somehow the Father and the Ruach and his truth and his word are maneuvering us into the same place where we actually can be in the river, and I can hear him more, and he hears me more, and that I think, I don't want to speak for Steve, but I think it just only brings us closer. It doesn't pull us apart in some sort of doctrinal debates and arguments and things like that. I might need my white flag every now and then, but the reality of it is it's a fantastic journey, discipleship on all its various levels, if we're willing to put this biblical principles in at every layer of this tree ring. And so anyway, I thoroughly enjoy it, but boy, I can sure appreciate what Jason was speaking about regarding the remnant and how important it is we actually go down this path, because, I believe there's going to be accountability for leadership on this. And I think that's all of us on this broadcast, you guys. It's not just, wherever we're called, there's going to be an accountability before our King and our Messiah and our groom. And so, I want to walk with others that get that, because they're going to help me finish my race, right? And I want to help, others finish their race. And so, I'm learning how to not avoid this. And that's hard sometimes because the donkey's pride gets in the way. It just does at times. And, that's got to die. That part of me has got to die. And I've got to learn what teshuvah really means, and to stay in a place of teshuvah. And so that's a journey. That's a journey.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate what Curtis has said and what Jason has said. And I'm going to kind of piece some of these puzzle pieces together. We cannot expect the body on any level to do anything that we're not willing to do, we're able to do, or striving to do as leaders. Okay, and that's really, I think, why I think really, I love the analogy of the story Jason told, because I think the leaders are going to get basically held to account first and foremost, and said, look, you guys are to blame for this mess. You can't expect the body to do what the leaders are not doing, and the leaders are doing nothing. They're not working together. They're fighting with each other. They're ignoring each other. They're fostering the problem. And so M.T.O.I is hoping to, at least as an inspirational platform, inspire people to realize that we as leaders, we need accountability. We need to work together. We need to show love above all things. I mean, we're not seeing love among leadership at all. I shouldn't say it all. I mean, there are a few places here and there where some leaders get along real well, but it's very far, few and far between, as they say. And so, it's about, like Curtis said, looking for and finding others of like-minded. By like-minded meaning not doctrinally and positionally on everything, but of a heart to work together to serve the body, to work together to kind of discipleship, to be accountable. We've all, I think, had enough of leaders that are not accountable, leaders that are out on their own island and nobody can tell them anything. They're not listening to anybody. They're not talking to anybody. Jason mentioned it, our leadership, and we may have to make a slight adjustment in how we do this so we can include guys like Curtis and Jason because of the time difference. But, the leadership at this point is meeting about every 2 weeks. The next one is actually going to be this coming Sunday. And, of course, here on this side of the world, that would be, Monday around noon or 2 in the afternoon, depending on New Zealand and Australia, but it'll be 8 o'clock p.m. It's going to be noon. It's the noon meeting on Sunday, so that's going to be like really early in the morning for you guys. So it's not really that conducive, that way. So we may have to make some time adjustments to figure out how can we enable our brothers to be a part of the conversation. Because what Jason has to say, what Curtis has to say, what other leaders on this side of the world have to say is valuable to all the other leadership to hear. Their insight, their input, the issues they're dealing with, and they'll need to hear what we have to say. And that's the beauty of the platforms, to create an opportunity where we can encourage each other, be accountable to each other, edify each other, lift each other up, and really to support each other in what? Not in growing each other's ministries, in serving the body, in washing a lot of feet, and being there, and when people need us for whatever they need us for. It's just, I think it's a beautiful model. I think it's a great opportunity, and I couldn't be more excited to work with two other guys than these two guys here. And for those of you that know me, and you know I'm a late night person, I got to tell you right now, Curtis, actually, I thought I found somebody who could keep up with me, but actually I went to bed and he stayed up. You're unreal, brother. I mean, you know what? It's very unreal for me to sit here looking at that office, knowing that we sat in that office till like 3 a.m. so many nights. So normally I would be sitting there right in that other chair. So because we had quite a few conversations in that office, we let Pip take. We didn't want to keep Pip up with how loud we can get, so we were in the office, which is actually a separate building next to the house, and it was just great. And we'd go until like 3. I'd call it a night, and he'd still be up. So, brother, I love somebody who can hang with me all the way till 3, 4 in the morning. And actually, these guys over here, they'll give me a break because I've got some morning people over here like Mark. Mark normally wakes up at 4 in the morning. And here I am keeping him up, the poor guy, killing him. So, but you, no problem with you. It was great.
We had some good, we had some excellent address over here. It's funny actually, Steve, because I was saying that, sometimes we're so willing to be real with each other, when you're up, we're talking late in the evening and we're enjoying that fellowship. But at the same time, and it was with Daniel the other night too, same thing, hey brother. I mean, there's this sense of going, we got to cut the crap, and just, start learning how to be a body in a way that it was supposed to be. Because, obviously the Christian side of the riverbank it's become farcical in the eyes of Rome. It looks at it, it goes, you guys can't, how many, 30,000 plus denominations, you're all screaming that you've got all the answers, it's a house built on sand, and yet I'm seeing the same thing developing over on the Messianic, Hebrew root side of thing and all that kind of thing. And this is why I can't stand the labels, somebody said to me, well, what are you? You a Christian? Are you Messianic? Are you Hebrew? And it's, it's not that any one of those terms in and of themselves I got necessarily a problem with. But sometimes you're dealing with people's negative perceptions of a label. And it's about trying to work with that and go, look, you may see me as this, but actually see the brother too behind the label, or you may see me as this, and come and walk with me, come and get to know me, instead of just being focused on the label and whatever your experience of it may have been from whatever riverbanks you're standing on, and this is where, getting in the river, and we're having our river conversations, to all hours, they get real. This is what some people don't see. They see maybe a broadcast like this, and we're talking together. It's very congenial, and we might have a few digs, and we're talking about some serious matters, and we'll keep digging down, and I'm sure the program's going to. But the thing that ultimately will come out of, I believe, accountable fellowship is a greater level of intimacy where, I can say what needs to be said, or I can hear what needs to be heard, in that safe, trusting environment that doesn't breed gossip, that doesn't breed, well, I'm going to look good at somebody else's expense. I don't know where it was where we've learned on both sides of the riverbank that we can hurl rocks and run the other way. Because I'll tell you, I'm seeing so many people try and look good at the expense of others now on both sides of these riverbanks. It is simply saddening me. And I can't help but think it's saddening our King. The reality of it is, why does all this light hurl a rock and run away? I mean, I read scripture that tells me quite clearly that the darkness scatters, not the light. So I'm sitting there, brother, I'm going, brother, sister, you're hurling rocks at me. You may think you know what I'm saying, or you may have whatever you're processing in the battleground of your mind, but then you're running away. And I'm thinking, well, if you're the holder of truth, if you really are the holder of truth as you're self-proclaimed, then shouldn't you be the one staying and correcting the one in darkness? Yet I'm seeing all the light scattered. And so you start to ask yourself questions, what's going on here? If somebody is truly being led from a perspective of love and bringing in a journey into someone else's life, it shouldn't be a place where we can hurl rocks, make statements, try and look good at putting down somebody else's doctrine with no accountability and running the other direction, and all that kind of stuff. I think really the behavior of a servant leadership model, and I know Steve's, mentioned this already, and again, for the sake of the conversation, sometimes we have to generalize. This isn't everyone all the time, but we can all find ourselves in this place where if we don't start taking responsibility for the mantle that's been given us, we're in for a shock. I really believe that. It's a sobering thing to realize.
That's so true. That's so true, Curtis. One of the things that occurred to me while you were speaking is like, you've got a congregation, yeah? You've got a congregation. And one of the unique things about Rabbi Steve, he's got a congregation as well. So, and Daniel, you've got a congregation? No? Okay. Now, those of us that have got congregations, can you name everyone in your congregation? Can you tell me what jobs they have? Is there any of them going through or struggling through something or ill? Do you know their kids' names? Things like that. Like, people don't care how much Torah you know. Like, you can have so much Torah knowledge, but are you interested in other people? Are you interested in getting somebody else over the line? When a soccer team scores a goal, the goalkeeper doesn't usually go, oh, the front forward scored another goal. Oh, great. But so when we see other ministries' success, do we go, oh yeah, whatever? We've got to be going, yes, that's fantastic. We've got to really be excited about other ministries, about how all the wins that we see in other congregations locally and internationally, and be quick to think the best about one another, and not be quick to think the worst. And we've got to learn that. And part of the reasons we're very emaciated and we're sort of limping along, and it's actually critical that we're still managing to be together at all. What you're saying, the leadership, people don't realize how dangerous it is being a leader, how much you're exposed and how much you're scrutinized, because you're basically everybody that chooses to place themselves at your fellowship and chooses to listen to your teachings and to listen to your advice, they're placing themselves in the heavenly chain of authority, which ultimately goes back to Yahweh through Yeshua, but you're there as a sort of the rubber meeting the road. And so when it comes their time to be judged, we all get a mention. We all get a mention. Anybody who's ever been influenced by us in any way, shape or form. And this should scare the heck out of us. And the key is humility. And Rabbi Steve spoke about it yesterday. And one of the things I've noticed about Rabbi Steve more and more as I get to know him is I like the fact that he says, I could be wrong. And one of the interesting things about that is whenever you've got somebody stuck on an idea, when they start raising their voice, when they start getting angry, when they start digging their heels in, that doesn't look good. There's something wrong there. But when somebody just says, well, you know what, I could be wrong. And to the best of my knowledge, my research has pointed that the best possible pronunciation that I can find, the majority of Hebrew scholars agree that the pronunciation is Yahweh. Now, but we could still be wrong. We could still be wrong, but we've got to do our best to go, okay, that's honestly, without being a head case, that's honestly my best attempt. And anybody who's giving the pronunciation a crack, because the word quite clearly says to call on the name, not whisper the name or meditate on the name, but to call, to shout it out. And so you've got to give it a red hot go. And anybody who's giving it a red hot go, good on them. But I'm just noticing that he'll just, in some questions that he couldn't answer, he said, listen, some of the best questions that he answered yesterday were ones he couldn't answer. He just said, I don't know. I don't know. And that's, oh man, you don't realize how refreshing that is. And one of the other things he says, which I talk about all the time, and it's humility. Now, it's not the fact that us guys are going to do things wrong and have done things wrong, and we are going to do more things wrong. But how are you at the second pass? What does that mean? How, when somebody says, oh, Curtis, you've done something wrong, how do you react? You go, yeah, I did. And that's the thing that sets us apart. That's why David was so different from Saul. It's because when he got caught out, he says, oh, you were late. You didn't turn up on time. I did the offering because I didn't think you were going to show up. It was his fault. It was his fault. He was doing this. But when David got caught out in one of the most shocking things, he slunk off the throne and he said, I have sinned. And so that's the thing. And I read something not long ago, and I did a teaching on it called Spiritual Leadership, the truth about spiritual leadership. And I came across this thing in the Jewish writings, and it says, nobody can be appointed to a role of leadership unless they have a basket of serpents over their back. And the idiom there is, unless they've got something reprehensible in their background. Because if any of us are becoming arrogant, a person can say, turn around. So you've just got to go, you know what, I know what that's like. When somebody comes to you in confidence, says, brother, I've got this problem, you don't say, oh, yeah, I used to know what that was like. Yeah, come and chat to me. You go, okay, let's talk. And totally confidential. What do you need? What can I do? How can I help you? And you take on their burden as though it's you. So when you're rebuking somebody, imagine being on the receiving end of the rebuke. Doesn't mean sometimes you don't raise your voice. Maybe sometimes you have to give them a hard rebuke. But you want to put yourself in the place of the person that's coming to you with whatever problem they've had. And if it's you go, okay, well, I've got to get this right. So, and I think that's the essence of loving our neighbor as ourselves. And it's not really it's sort of a side focus. People are just cramming their heads full of information through Torah. And there's a rabbinical expression, and it says somebody who just reads and studies and doesn't really love their neighbor as himself is somebody who becomes like a basket of books. And so we don't need any more baskets of books. We need people. And I don't care how little your knowledge is, but are you true and faithful to the knowledge? We've got a guy, haven't we, Mark? We've got Tom Howling, and he was like a fresh-faced Ned Flanders Christian less than a year and a half ago. And his learning curve is like that. But the guy, nobody would say a bad word about him. He's not a pushover, but he's just got a good weight with people, hasn't he? Yeah. And he's just got a really good vibe about him. And he didn't have any knowledge, really much knowledge at all when he first started. But that's not what I think we should be seeking. It's really, and also in some cases, it's a dirty dozen scenario, because the people that are sometimes the shockers, they're sometimes the people for the job as well. So, I mean, you've seen the Magnificent Seven, and they're getting these guys and they're assembling them together to do a massive task. And they were sort of the dregs and the misfits of society. And in many ways, we're made up of people like that. We don't fit in anywhere. We're misfits. We don't feel at home in a synagogue. We don't feel at home in a Sunday keeping mainstream church. And we're outcasts. We're sitting out in the middle of nowhere. But the comforting thing is we've got somebody out there that's very, very powerful, the author of creation, the be-all, end-all, King Messiah Yeshua. So we've just got to remember that and keep encouraging one another, because like if I let the things that I did in my past keep haunting me, I would have never come forward and done it, and I wouldn't have been able to have the empathy that I've got now, because it's not unless you've had that checkered past, you've had that bad stuff, that you really develop a strong empathy for people, and you know that everybody's going through a struggle. Everybody's got a noose around their neck. Everybody's got a sword at their throat. But in that state, it keeps us edgy. One thing about fear, you were mentioning fear the other day. What's the good thing about fear? You're alert. You're switched on. You know, when you've got no fear, you're lazy. You go, oh yeah, I'm just going to sleep back in the couch. But when there's this sense of fear, this dread, or this awe, you're switched on. You're like bang, bang, bang. So I think if we can do that, if we can just look out for people like that, you know, not necessarily somebody that knows Hebrew or can recite the Torah back to front, but what little bit of Torah they've got, they're really sort of keen on it. But it takes, you do have to look at people. You have to ask them questions. You have to hang out with them. And that's what you were saying too. Mm-hmm. Discipleship, it's about hanging out with the person. What's their morning conduct like? What's their midday conduct like? Can you get up in the morning and go to bed at night, and go from getting up in the morning to going to bed with doing as minimal amount of sins as you can, and living the abundant life? So how do I get up in the morning? What's my conduct? Well, there's a way of doing it. It's like a technique, learning the best way to do mundane activities in the home. What should I be thinking if I'm making breakfast? What should I be thinking if I'm doing the washing up? All these sorts of things. And there's a way of doing it. But anyway, yeah. So it's interesting, but it's exciting. It should be something we're excited about.
That's okay. My battery's going down. I'm just going to plug in. No big deal.
But yeah, it's really cool.
I was just saying, just to back you up on one of the comments you're making, is that if we engage in discipleship, we end up in a place where we start fellowshipping at an intimate enough level.
You guys might have to mute your mic.
I'll go to mute him. Sorry. 1 second.
Go ahead.
There we go. Is that better?
Yep.
Nice. You start fellowshipping at an intimate enough level that you start to understand those in the fellowship around you where you've had people that have actually overcome. So it's not just that you've got something in your past or whatever else it is you might have struggled with your fire. They've actually overcome it. And the journey of overcoming that brings an authority, and it brings a safety, and it brings good direction and wisdom and all of these things as the Father is taking through someone an overcoming position. It's not just that you've gone through something, because some people have gone through something and didn't overcome anything. And then they go through it again and again and again. You wonder at what point are they going to overcome or get this? But when they've actually overcome something, you can't help but have empathy, because the reality of actually overcoming something means you've been broken and you actually have finally submitted into something. And so humility is an outcome. You don't manufacture it. You don't try to, it's an outcome of the process. And when you're with people, as a Father brings us together in discipleship environments, you start finding out, okay, well, Curtis hasn't overcome every fire there is to face on a journey, but actually, Chris over here or, Russell here or this or that, they may have in that area. And so you end up not dealing with birds of the feather flock together. You end up actually a bird that's overcome, repented, actually has a fruit and a way in the direction of wisdom to actually help someone else, And so you get that true sort of discipleship model going, but without that intimacy, and I'd just like to touch on without actually still having a leadership model. There seems to also be this other side of the fence where people are just thinking that, Yeshua or Yah runs some sort of, chaotic environment, and there's no leadership somehow. Now, it may be servitude leadership, absolutely, and we need to know what that looks like. But it's there. I make the statement, we're not to be respecters of men, but we are to be respectful. And in order to be in that place, we need to know that he gives to his church these 5 things. And those 5 things inevitably are not only the gift of what they are to his body, but they are by virtue that leadership that comes with it. And if we don't respect people serving in those roles, not be respecters of men, but be respectful of what those are, you don't understand what we actually could be possibly missing out on. And so we've got this one model where people are just throwing it away as if we don't need some leadership at all, and he's just running some chaotic environment. The other side of it is this Nicolaitan structure that's controlling and lording. But there is a true biblical model, and I know that Steve pursues that as well. In fact, I'm sure he'll have something to say on what I just said, so I'm just going to stop there for a second.
Yeah, I really appreciate you pointing that out. You said something a few seconds ago about focusing to some degree and understanding the outcomes. You see, I think, unfortunately, too many people end up in leadership and their outcome is making sure to focus on their income. And so they want to make sure that they're not doing anything that might have an outcome of adversely affecting their income. So they say things or don't say things because they're afraid of their income. Or they have an outcome of wanting everybody to be on their page about whatever doctrinal position it is or whatever else. The outcome we're looking for is helping the body successfully and safely navigate from where they are into the kingdom. That's the outcome. The other outcome kind of is the same thing, but in different words, is helping people transform from what they are into what he is. Same idea, different words. But unfortunately, I think that a lot of leadership, they're looking for outcome numbers. I want a large amount of people that have money, or they're looking for, maybe not lots of money like being rich, but just job security, so to speak, pay the bills and be able to be full-time. You can have all those things without them being the outcome. Those things are outcomes of other efforts. Abba will take care of the financial outcome if you're taking care of the things he wants you to do. It's helping people go from point A to point B. Can we help them get successfully? A shepherd takes the sheep from where they are and safely progresses them to the next pasture where they're supposed to be. And so that's what we're looking to do. And so I really appreciate that you pointed out the outcomes. There is an attack, there almost seems like a consistent attack on leadership. And I can't blame people to some degree because it's been done so badly. I mean, they've been abused and neglected and rejected and controlled and everything else. But yet it's still the biblical model. There are those who will say that, well, the Ruach teaches everything. The Spirit is just going to teach everybody directly. Well, that's happening. 7 ways of seeing everything. Is the Ruach confused? I don't think the Ruach is confused.
It's like a soldier who is in Afghanistan and his unit are about to move on and attack another village or take another area, and this soldier wants to contact President Obama for the movement orders and just not even speak to his commanding officer. So we've got to, they say, well, Yeshua's my rabbi, Yeshua's my teacher. He is all that and much, much more. But we need to be able to function in real time. We need to be able to work in a way that is working with nature. I mean, what people don't realize is in the Olam Haba, there's no miracles. There's no miracles. Why would you need a miracle in the world to come or in the Messianic era? Like, why would you need any miracles? It's an imperfect environment. Miracles only come by way of an imperfect environment. So what miracle it would be needed? And so we need to work as a cohesive body of people. We talk about the army of Yahweh. Well, in many ways, it is like recruiting an army. And when you look at Yeshua's conduct with a prospective convert, it blows you away because he's not winning friends and influencing people. Somebody says, I want to follow you. He says, foxes have holes, birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. That's not winning converts and influencing people. Somebody else comes to him and says, I want to follow you. And he says, nobody who puts his hand to the plow and looks behind himself is fit to be in the kingdom. Somebody else says, I want to follow you, but first I want to bury my dead father. And he says, let the dead bury their own dead. Ruth wanted to go with Naomi. Naomi says, go back and be a Moabite princess. You've got a good life. Orpah, she's gone. You couldn't see the dust. But 3 times she said, no. And what happens usually if somebody says, what faith are you? I'm this, and he goes, it sounds interesting. Tell me more about it. I might be interested in, what if you could perceive that it's probably something that the person wouldn't be interested in? And say, well, I don't know if this is for you. I said, what do you mean it's not for me? All of a sudden you'll be sort of finding that, as soon as somebody says, well, maybe this isn't for you, they're like, what's not for me? Why can't I come along? And so all of a sudden the whole thing shifts. It's not
Well, no. I mean, you just ordained him, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying he's only been ordained for
officially.
Officially, I'm saying officially, he's only been ordained for like a month.
He's got ADD. See, guys, to be perfectly honest with you, he does have adult ADD, but he's a living example of how ADD actually works. So,
Right. Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel. And he'll go and get the squirrel, and then he'll come back and get the task that he was originally on.
Right. He's great. He's great. As a matter of fact, he's sitting over here wearing an M.T.O.I t-shirt, so it looks good.
I can't believe that he's managed to score.
And, by the way, I know this is not going to make any sense to anybody, but please, Curtis, make sure Mark knows I am wearing red. Inside joke.
Definitely. Well, he'll actually, if he's watching this.
Okay, now you have to understand that I ran into the same problem here that I ran into with Mark, because I wore the maroon shirt, and all of a sudden I find out that's Queensland's color, and that New South Wales is blue, and so we started a whole nother, debate about that. So good thing I wore a blue shirt before I wore the maroon shirt. I would have been in real trouble up here because they take their teams and their colors seriously. Of course, real great guy, Mark, who's down there in New Zealand, huge Liverpool soccer fan. I'm sorry, he wants me to call it football. Okay, Liverpool football fan, and their color is red. So let Mark know I was wearing red today to be respectful of Liverpool. Go Liverpool.
I think he supports Queensland because I've seen him in this maroon top.
For me? Or Mark? You don't know the Mark. Okay.
Oh, no, sorry, you're talking about your guy and your...
Nobody's watching this. Nobody's watching this and nobody's listening. So don't tell Mark that I root for Man United. Okay, shh. Don't tell him. Manchester United. Shh, don't tell him. He's going to go out now.
Sorry, Daniel. We've derailed this discussion, haven't we?
Poor Daniel. This is their first show, and he brings me on with these guys.
You're such a patient host, Daniel.
Hey, it's totally fine. This is
He's very good.
I will say this. I wanted.
I've had a chance to live in Aussie and both Queensland and New South Wales, and I coached the women's state ice hockey, actually, of all things, and I was the coach for the state of Queensland in ice hockey, and I can tell you that the colors do mean something there, and they get very, 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 very intense about all these things. We just need to be able to translate some of that great passion into discipleship and leadership. You know, I did want to say, just finishing a little bit on the leadership thing. I think because look, there are people out there, and I've had to deal with many of them who have come from an environment where they've been hurt. And in fact, and even from my own testimony, I can tell you, a lot of people could have come out of that and said, you know what, I'm not trusting anybody anymore. I'm not doing this, and as you were expressing, Jason, we're not doing this, but there's a lot of people that are hurt and they don't trust and they don't understand the servitude or the servant leadership model. And so they think any leadership is it's almost getting like a negative connotation. And yet I think this is in the enemy's best interest to be able to be trying to foster that, so that because eventually it'll make it so chaotic, so divided, so disruptive that the only thing we're going to have left is conformity, not true unity. And I try and explain to people that conformity is not necessarily equal unity. Unity is an outcome. You can't manufacture it. You can't pretend it's there. You can't sort of do these things. When the Father unifies us, brings us together, it takes a role of I believe, Yeshua from a leadership perspective, the ones that have got to appreciate of most of the things that I talk about. And so I have been there. And I have treated it inappropriately. And I have received exactly what I had given, in earlier stages of my walk. And so I understand it, and I know that you guys do too. And I think there's a lot of onus on us right now to bring that heart back where that says, you know what? We're not here to control anyone. We're not here to tell anybody what to do, how to do it, what they got to eat, not eat, all that kind of a thing. But what we can provide is a place of safe certain matters, from Torah to the Brit Hadashah, whatever it might be. But without discipleship, and again, not to labor it, but without fostering what the discipleship environment can bring, which is that relationship, it is really hard for some people to trust right now. And so, I know I'm speaking to you and you already know, but it's important that we take that place first and go, you know what, actually, we need to be in a place of repentance, and we need to be in that place of going, okay, we understand. And we're going to try and do it different. We're going to try and walk this out in a bit different place. And that's the heart I see behind what Steve's doing and what M.T.O.I is about. Certainly what I'm hearing, what you do, Jane, what Daniel Hart, we had a great time catching up the other night, and he really shared his heart, and I got a chance to understand why this man is working with Tré and what they're doing to bring Torah Made Flesh to people. And I think it's needed and it's time, and it's not to demean other things that are going on in other ministries. They all play their part, but we got to figure out how to do this together. We really do, and so hopefully this is the place we can get to. But I do know for me anyway, and I won't speak for anybody else, but I've had to look in the mirror. And I'm still got to look in the mirror. I got to figure this out. I just want to be doing that with people that I can know and love and trust. And we got to try and foster that in a discipleship environment. And, I really love what the Father's doing and who he's connecting us with and the great things that we're seeing and just some of the testimonies that we get from being around the world to just working with you guys to my most intimate discipleship environments and on the things we can address on that level and right the way through. So, hopefully I can help serve in that environment, but also receive, and there's an edification that comes with that. We're often so good at the correction and reproof, but we're not sometimes so good at the edification, and in giving that when it's needed. So, it's all of these things, but I think there's a heart here and a desire certainly from the fellowship and getting real to the late hours of the evening. With other brothers that are starting to hear this. And I know that I'm not the only one that's made the mistakes. We've all made them, and I know that we're all there. But you know what? I also know that we can overcome. And we can take this to a place that maybe becomes a bit more pleasing to the Father. Anyway, just sharing a bit of my heart on that.
We're going to need all of you evangelists out there. And you may not know if you're an evangelist. Evangelist is not a big title, by the way. Evangelists are you guys who love to get people excited. Something on Facebook, for example, that you immediately are resharing it because you know it's good stuff and needs to be shared. We need you guys who are out there. If you think this is useful, if you think this is good, go out and get other people excited about considering at least and taking advantage of the platform that M.T.O.I provides so that they can come and contact us and say, you know what, I think I'd like to work together to serve the body in a more effective way. And so if you're a leader and you're already out there listening to this, and we're hoping that Abba will bless the efforts of Torah Made Flesh, that people will subscribe, that people will like the show, that they'll come and watch it again next week. The next show that they do, I think they're going to be doing this once a week. Go ahead and spread that and share that. The stuff about Bible Pathway Adventures, M.T.O.I and its platforms, the NetStream, Antasy, stuff that's going on over here. Just, you guys are critical to, if you think this is useful, and again, we're not trying to build numbers. We're trying to reach people that think this might be useful. And if you think this might be useful, then we would love for you guys out there, you evangelists, to share this so that people can maybe access it. So that maybe those people that are out there who are leaders, Pip just ran by. Hi, Pip. The leaders. Pip. I was about to say, I've been in that office. There's not really much room over there for her to hide from the camera in that little part of the office. But, if you think this is something of value that people can benefit from, to participate in, then let's get excited about it. Because quite frankly, the people on the other side of the equation, the ones who are against leadership structure and all these other things, they're being very vocal. And so it's going to really help if some of you can get just as vocal in trying to say, hey, you know what, there may be a better way to do this. We're not claiming we're doing it right. We're claiming that we're going to make an effort to do it better. Because quite frankly, that's not even a lofty goal. It's been done so badly, it wouldn't take much to do it better. But we're hoping that we are at least at the very minimum doing it in a better, more effective way. Also, I wanted to just promote real quickly, and talk to Daniel and Tré about this idea in a public sense. But, Curtis and I found that people really enjoyed hearing our two unique sort of different perspectives on things when we did a question and answer session in Otaki in New Zealand. And, you basically have this idea of the two sticks of Ezekiel 37 kind of talking to each other. And so we're considering doing a talking sticks show where you can, basically hear the two of us. And we'd love to have someone like you, Daniel, sort of moderate the show. And what it would be is people can send in their questions. You can do it through whatever platform we choose, Facebook or some other thing, email. And then we could, almost like a viewer mail Q&A thing, Daniel could read out a question and get to hear, the two very different perspectives, yet you'll find we come out in the same place. Curtis and I can both address the issue. Jason and I can do the same thing. We can address an issue. The ultimate result of what we're going to end up with is going to be exactly the same. But you know what? What I say may or may not resonate with you. Maybe what he says but we're going to take you to the same spot. I mean, both of us are so much on the same page, Jason as well, that when we're discussing things, we'll get you to the same place. But you know what? Maybe you need to hear it the way he puts it. Maybe you need to hear it the way I put it or Jason puts it. Maybe it's some other leader that we get involved, or I should say we get involved, chooses to take advantage of the platform, and then maybe they put it into a perspective that really just clicks for you and resonates for you. And so, Daniel, if that's something that would be of interest to you, certainly can let us know. But we'd love to, produce a show, maybe on a monthly or weekly basis, something like that, where, Curtis and I, and maybe sometimes it would be Jason and Curtis or me and Jay, whoever, we kind of just get some people taking questions, answering questions, and if that makes any sense. If you like the idea, contact Torah Made Flesh. Is there a way for them to reach you, Daniel?
Yeah, you can reach us on Facebook. Oh, thank you. You can reach us on Facebook at Torah Made Flesh. You can send us a message there, or you can, send us. I'm setting up an email and a web page and everything for this right now. It's in the process of getting built. But yeah, just send go to Torah Made Flesh on Facebook. Send us a question there, or if if you guys would like to have something like that, I would surely enjoy it. I think that's part of the rubber meeting the road thing. Is putting the questions out there for them to get answered, because
Daniel, with Facebook, can I just mention with Facebook, there's something that we can now do that's very, very limited effort, but maximum effect. And this is actually for the big guns, for the juggernauts, for the Rico Cortezes, for the Rabbi Steve Berksons. If one of you guys likes one of our ministry posts, that carries so much weight. And all of us, if we all connect and be friends on Facebook with our different ministries and our different our arms extended into Sif Lost Israel, if just a simple like, and if you can a share, it just goes so far. And I've reprimanded my own people about it, because up until recently we had people in the fellowship that we've actually supported people financially when they've had financial issues, and these are people that up until recently they wouldn't even hit a like. I say, how hard is it for you to hit, if it's to do with our ministry, just to hit a like and a share? And I blew my mind. I thought that's ridiculous. Facebook is it's an instant messaging system, and it's dangerous in that we can put something out there and it can go to all our friends plus a lot of people we don't know. It can go viral, and in days gone by, you could actually sit down and have a think and calm down and then write something. But now, if you don't have that second breather, you can fire something off. So yes, it can be an environment where arguments occur and things like that. But if it's something to do with your ministry, promoting an event, or even if it's just a word of encouragement, but it's to do with your ministry, not necessarily something personal, hit a like. If you can, hit a share. But if I notice, if Rico, sometimes he hits a like, boom, all of a sudden all these other likes flock to it. But don't you agree, Mark? It's just an amazing thing. But if you end up getting on Facebook, Curtis, just bear that in mind, because we'll support you. When you do. But I mean, the best thing to do with Facebook, get on, do what you got to do, and get off. And he's really,
that doesn't work with me anyway. Get on Facebook
or get Pip's on there, isn't she?
Yeah, she'll do it.
Well, Pip's on there.
I'll work through the back door. I'll get Pip to do it.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing. If you can hit a like, and I haven't yet. I don't think I've friended Torah Made Flesh yet. So I'm looking for that now. I'm doing that right now. So this is something I'm doing right now.
Good. And by the way, all you who are listening, I would recommend highly that even though this is only the first show, go ahead and subscribe. I promise you, these guys are going to put some things on that will be valuable. Maybe not every week it'll be something that matches what you're looking for.
I found it.
But you're going to find on a regular basis, they're going to bring some people together. So go ahead and subscribe so that every time they post something, you'll get right there. Because the subscriber level, you just subscribe for it. There you go. Okay. I'm subscribed. And so I'm practicing what I preach. I was like one of the first guys subscribed since they put it up there. So, go ahead and subscribe. By the way, you can subscribe to M.T.O.I on YouTube as well. And we're going to have the Nazarene and Anthony guys up there on YouTube as well. And we'll get the Donkey Speaks on YouTube. We're going to get everybody on there. That's the platform everybody kind of goes to. And by the way, we're going to get the Donkey Speaks to be a picture of a donkey wearing that hat. We got to get Tom. We got to get what's his name, Tom. We got to get Tom to fix that cartoon and get that hat on. I love that hat. Everybody's got to agree. Don't you love that hat? That's a great. I just love that hat.
I don't know if I love the hat or the grin that's underneath the hat.
Oh, both
the
are
hat
just as
shakes
good.
it off.
It's just as good.
All right, done deal.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to actually now we're going to pretend that this actually is Daniel and Tré's show, and we're going to give up the mic.
Yeah, I was just gonna say actually, because I had the great time of fellowshipping late in the evening with Daniel the other night. And Dan, I was gonna say, you said some things to me about the heart of the program and why you were doing it. I think that I benefited from hearing that and from fellowshipping in that, and it would just be great to hear your and Tré's words on. Okay, what's brought this about? That's not without detail and all that, but just sort of the why, because when you see that, when you hear the heart behind it, I mean, you just want to be a part of it, that sort of a thing. Is that fair?
Sure, that's fair. It's really crazy because, I was down at Sukkot at M.T.O.I when they were doing tabernacles down there. Me and my family went down there, and I got to meet Tré for the first time, and it was a very, very great experience. He's you could tell he really wants to pursue something and, promoting the kingdom. And just so happens it's kind of the film thing, which I love. And so here's the guy running around with a camera. I'm running around with a camera. So obviously I have to talk to him. And just so happens he's going to film school. So I'm like, wow, this works out really, really well. And we started talking about doing a show and, trying to, what would that look like, or what could we make it look like? And honestly, we want to take the heart of what, like you guys are doing and the things that you guys are teaching about, and the whole thing as a whole. It's like this leadership, this discipleship, all this stuff. And we want to take it and ultimately try to put it in as much visual and audio format as we can, because I've been watching Rabbi Steve stuff since somebody sent me a link 4.5 years ago. That's the way I learn. I know there's a lot of people out there. I'm not a super big book reader. So the object of this show is to bring on different, we want to get different teachers together. We want to get this cohesive thing going in the kingdom where we all benefit from what everybody knows. And we know we all ain't got it right. We know, he'll set it right when he comes. But the amount of information between just like you three guys is astronomical. So how do we take that and just, instead of just these simple little things we can do, we put you guys in a format like this? Like, I love this. However many words I've said, it's fine with me, because just hearing you guys go back and forth and talk about the things that need to go on in the body, and the accountability, even the accountability issue among y'all and the people, is very refreshing to me, because I know what it's like to kind of not fear leadership, but putting myself in a position where, there's a man that's not necessarily over me, but there is that thing there, that leadership thing. And it's kind of scary, especially for people who've been burned 150 times, in churches or wherever they come from. So this whole concept is, we want to, like we filmed down there at Tabernacles, we want to take those and we want to put small teachings with videos where people that might not be able to make it to feast events or Shabbat services somewhere, or they don't know, they don't get to interact with people. We want to take them and put them in a visual format and put them out there for people, so that when they click on it, they say, look, this, what about bondage and the Torah being this some ungodly thing you can't do. And then you see a bunch of people dancing and eating together and having fellowship that is just beyond anything I've ever experienced. Put that in visual in front of their face where they can go, that's what I need. Maybe all these things that I've learned or been through, that's what I need. I need true fellowship. And look, what does true fellowship look like? It has a leadership model. I mean, There's Moses, he's the head. There's Aaron. There's all these other leaders that are in front of these other people. Look, it's a biblical model. We all know that. That's just how but we've been burned so bad on it that it's a scary thing to look into. But with this show, bringing you guys together and even doing like the Q&A session. I love Q&A sessions because that's where people get to speak from the heart. They get to say, hey, what do you think about this? And, having the different perspectives from you guys will be absolutely incredible. And I just think it'd be very rewarding to people to be able to ask questions, to be able to have some FaceTime with somebody, to just have all these things that we've been missing out, because normally there's this guy in this position up here and he's kind of elevated himself, or we've elevated him to a position where there's no equality no more. It's like, just because you know this or you've been through this doesn't necessarily mean you reign over me, but it does mean that I can learn from you and that you can be a mentor and you can show me through these trials that I'm experiencing. And that's ultimately what we want to do, is take all that and put it in an audio visual form where people can consume it. Because let's face it, where people are consuming now is this thing. It's like they're going to these things, they're going to stuff like this. The TV and radio, it's kind of becoming a thing of the past. So if we can take this and get it in front of as many people as we can to let them see this and see what people walking this out together looks like, there's no reason why they wouldn't want it, because that's what the Messiah did. That's everybody ran in contact with. He helped all these people for nothing. It was like, I just want to help you. And even the command to help, and the homeless or the widow, the child. Look, he didn't say go help them if they believe in me. He said go help them. That's your job. Be the blessing. You go help them. Go take care of. You see the guy needs some food, go get him some food. It doesn't matter. You ain't even got to say nothing about God to him. You don't know where his heart's at or what the king is doing with him. You just do your job. You be the blessing. You help him out. And you never know. You might be the only Messiah that man or that woman ever sees in their life before they pass away. You do and be the example of what he showed us to be. And that's what I want people to understand, is it's like, that's our job. Our job isn't to throw rocks at each other, regardless of whether we disagree on the name, the calendar, whatever other stuff there is to argue about. Quit arguing about it. The job is to follow him and take care of people. That's our job. And and I know Tré feels the same way, and I know he hadn't talked a lot because he's kind of managing the YouTube channel right now, and he's trying to take care of that and do all the technical aspects for us. So if he wants to throw his 2 cents in or whatever he wants to do, he could come on and do that right now.
Well, can you
Otherwise, hear me? I think he's going to try to get a few questions for you guys together off of the YouTube page if people are asking questions. So if Tré, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You there, Tré? Tré, where are you? In YouTube madness somewhere. Where are you? Tré.
I think people can hear me.
Something happened to my sound. I can't hear nobody.
Oh, we're here. We're hearing you good too. Your sound's fine.
Okay, hold on. I think he might be texting me. Oh,
okay.
He says he's there, but his mic ain't working.
Everyone else can hear me.
Oh, hold on. He's trying to text me a question, I think. Everyone else can hear him. Can you guys hear him?
No, we can't hear
We
him.
can't hear him, no. We hear you, though, but we don't hear him.
Oh,
Okay.
guys, they don't know I'm talking about YouTube.
Rabbi, can you address the corporate M.T.O.I, how the congregation works, how that's going to kind of, what that visually looks like? Together, the whole, like the way M.T.O.I is kind of corporately, you know what I'm trying to say.
I think so. I mean, I'll take a shot at it here. Okay, so M.T.O.I has we're actually filed officially in the United States as an association of congregations. So we're actually filed that way. And that's really kind of what we are, is that we are a group of affiliated congregations who have come together freely to work together to serve the body in a more effective way. If you are somebody who is leading something, I mean, we have a leadership council, and that leadership council is made up of the leaders of all the affiliated groups. To affiliate and be in the leadership, we require very simple. We only require two things. I usually joke and say it's a very complicated process, but it's very simple. We have two things. You must be you must be leading something. By the way, leading something means you could have 5 people, 2 families, 3 families in your living room, but it's growing and you're hoping to bring something more public in your area. And so you're developing. So we work with people that are just at the beginnings of leadership. We also work with people that have 75 people in the congregation that have been doing it for 13 years. Kind of like Jason is over here. So I mean,
but a few.
Oh, okay.
We've had about 300 people trace through over the years.
But the point is, you could be doing this a long time in a public way, or you could be doing it just getting started. What matters to us is that you're leading something, because we are here to form a council of people that are going to be able to learn and also instruct based on their experience, based on doing this for a long time, based on learning from the fruit of their labors. I mean, why would you want to go ahead and make the same mistakes I made if I could tell you already what those mistakes are, and then you can benefit from the experience so that you don't make the same mistakes? I mean, I already made them for you, so you don't need to. I promise you, anything that you could have done wrong, somebody in our leadership has already done it. So we understand, we've had the experience. Now, so if you're leading something, the second criteria, there's only 2, is that you need to participate. How can I say that the point of the organization is to work together if you're not participating? So we expect people in the leadership to come to as much of what we offer as possible. We do offer Tuesday night Torah studies. We will be starting to maybe offer something similar in this side of the world, because obviously Tuesday night study for us is not Tuesday night where they are. It's actually lunchtime, in the future. By the way, I'm enjoying talking to you from the future. We have a once a month general session. The next one actually is this coming Sunday night in the States, 8 o'clock Eastern time on the 22nd. That will be, again, noon over here in Australia on Monday, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday in New Zealand. But now that we're doing more work with all these time zone issues, I'm going to talk to the other council members, other leaders, about how can we maybe make adjustments to our time, maybe do more than one meeting so we can involve everybody. And then in that structure, in the leadership structure, I am at the top of that structure. Somebody has to be at the top of that structure. Somebody has to have the burden of responsibility to protect and to keep the vision going forward. Because if that's not happening, then what happens is a second or a third vision will come in, and that's what we call division. 2 visions is division, okay? And so we don't want to have division. And so I have the burden of responsibility for sharing the vision of M.T.O.I, okay, and making sure that we're protecting that vision. However, in the Leadership Council, okay, which we have a council that gets together on a regular basis, like I said, every 2 weeks approximately. Our next one is also this coming Sunday, the 22nd. But every 2 weeks, give or take, like this month, because of my travels, we're only going to have one this month. So out of 26 possible times a year, we probably meet about 20 to 22 times a year. And we get together so that we can share with each other what's going on in our local areas, so that we can encourage each other in what's going on, so we can learn from each other based on what's going on. Maybe you're having a tremendous growth spurt in your area, and we can understand, from what you're doing and why that growth spurt is occurring. Maybe actually you're having a downturn, and we can help you understand maybe why you're losing people. We could also help you with, say an issue that may come up, and you say, maybe you're a new person in leadership, and you say, okay, I'm facing this situation, and I don't know what to do. And so you have over a dozen leaders with over 100 years of experience combined who can help you, give you counsel as maybe what you should do. Maybe you've already done something and you want to ask, hey, this is what I did. What do you think? Was that the right way to handle it? Did I make the right call? And so this is how the structure works. Now, we're providing a platform. I'm not interested in micromanaging your congregation if you're affiliated. I'm not interested in even macromanaging your congregation if you're affiliated. I've got enough of my own time being put into leading Beth Shalom Messianic congregation in Tennessee. but we are providing a platform for working together. We're providing a platform for finding out what needs there might be. You know what? The needs that are going on in Australia may be a little different than what's going on in the States or in Canada or in New Zealand. And so, we can start to come together and say, well, how can we meet those needs? And maybe some of the things, like, for example, with Curtis, I learned a great deal about this missing element that I wasn't really focusing on. Not that I didn't know about it, but I wasn't focusing on it, I think, enough, about discipleship. And so I got inspired about that. And I'm sure there's things that I've inspired him about as well. But when we come together as a group, we can all learn from each other. Now, there's no contracts. So somebody may be talking about from a corporate point of view. There's no financial commitments, although some of the affiliated groups do, of their own accord, decide they may want to take some of what that comes into their offering boxes and send a little maybe a tithe of that or a piece of that to M.T.O.I headquarters to help do some of these bigger things. Totally no obligation. That's their own choice. As a matter of fact, we don't even recommend it. They came up with the idea themselves and they started doing it. And so there's no financial obligation. There's no contracts. If you decide at some point this doesn't make sense to you, you're always free and welcome to leave. We're not going to throw rocks at you and mock you and attack you all over the internet if you do. Okay? And even if you mock us and attack us all over the internet, we're still not going to do it to you, because people have all done that to me already, and it's not a problem. Kind of been there, done that, got the t-shirt. That's why I wear red. See, so if I bleed, nobody will even notice. It's not a problem if they want to shoot at me. I got the red shirt. Keeps it all hidden up. Really brown. And so, so that's basically our structure. We provide opportunities to, we've been doing feasts as a corporate group for over 100 to 200 people twice a year for almost 15 years. We know how to do these things in a very effective way. It's not that our way is the only way, but we have an effective way of doing it. And so that being said, we can certainly help you if you want to start a local, regional, or whatever kind of feast in your area. And again, like I said, our way is not the only way, but we certainly have done this a long time, and we're fairly effective and efficient about it. And actually Daniel has been to one of our feasts just this last Sukkot. I know he's planning to come to Passover, and Tré's been to every one we've ever done. So Tré certainly has had that experience. I mean, he was 3, almost 4 years old, I think, at his first one, if I remember correctly. So, and he's so committed to coming to our feast that he drove down from Canada for Sukkot just to make sure he didn't break his streak of making every single one we've done. So that's been very exciting. So that's basically our corporate structure. Now, one of the things we also can provide, because we are registered in the States as an association of congregations, if you want to affiliate with us, we can help you with things like your banking and other things that you may not know what you're doing and how to do it, because we have an ability to provide that as well. The details of that will be able to be given to you if you contacted us. So lots of advantages to some of the structure that we have. So hopefully that answers the question a little bit.
Absolutely. I got one more, because I know everybody's probably getting tired and everything like that. So what we'll do, I'll ask this last one. You can answer this. And then what I'd like you guys to do is Curtis and Jason, and you guys plug where people can plug into you at, Facebook, wherever you guys are at, website, give everybody all the information. And then, we'll go after that. So next.
I want Curtis to tell everybody how they can find him on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of leading into that. Maybe he can. Maybe he was starting Facebook. That's why he took the picture down. He had to get on there and get his Facebook account set up. But the last question is same type of deal within the corporate M.T.O.I. They want to know how disagreements are handled, amongst, I guess, the assemblies or the leaders, how you would go about mediating that to make sure everything was, taken care of, handled scripturally.
Okay, great question. Simply, I just step in and tell everybody what they need to do, and I walk away. No, I'm kidding. I'm just a joke. Okay, first of all, this question is really good because it gives me an opportunity to share something. It is critical, and I'm so serious about this, that I never do anything that usurps in any way the local leadership. That's number one. Okay, I do not have any interest, and it's wrong if I start doing anything that in any way even looks like it's usurping the local leadership. So if local leadership is having an issue, absolutely local leadership can come to M.T.O.I's kind of general counsel and can share those issues, and we as a council can help to mediate the situation or help give counsel. Now, if there are people in a congregation that are having challenges with their leadership, and they were to come to us, we would first make sure they did Matthew 18 correctly, that they actually went to the local leadership, they addressed these things, and then if it was necessary and appropriate, we could have a conversation with us being there to help foster the healing and the resolving of their situation, but it's not of the leadership's interest to make any decisions. We're not there to judge, we're not there to impose. However, by voluntary agreement, they could ask M.T.O.I to come in and arbitrate, and in arbitrating, both parties may agree to adhere to the decision of the arbitration. So we have those things involved. But please make sure you are hearing this clearly. We have no interest or desire to usurp or step in and involve ourselves in any way that undermines local leadership.
That's awesome, because that that lets everybody know that there is not just the one man hoarding over everything, and I genuinely respect that a lot, because I think that's truly how the scripture tells us to handle matters, and I mean that's a great answer. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to let Jason go ahead and kind of plug where people can get in touch with him at, and then I'd like to let Curtis do it. And if you would, at the end, after they're done with that, Rabbi, would you kind of lead us out in prayer, and then Tré can go ahead and shut down the live feed and all that stuff and take care of that. So,
thank you, Daniel. Okay, so you can get a hold of us on Facebook. It's Netzarim and T. Netzarim is spelled N-E-T-Z-A-R-I-M, and T, it's all one word, A-N-T-O-E-C-I-E. Now that's as it appears as a website, but on Facebook it's two separate words. So Netzarim and T. Now if you can't remember that or you didn't write it down, you can type in www.messianic.com.au. So messianic.com.au, and that'll get Netzarim and T website up. We've got all our teachings on there. We've got a live video, we've got audio, we've got PowerPoints that are in JPEG format, and we've got all the text there of all the teachings. We're building quite a large archive of teachings there, which is really good. And you can watch us there live too, but also you can find us on Facebook and Netzarim and T. You'll just type it in and it'll be up there straight away. And we broadcast our services live, and they are from 1:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And we want us if you want to come on and have a look. And you can contact me via Facebook too. It's I'm Jason Jordan. I'm on Facebook, and send me a message, say hello, say shalom, and thank you very much, Daniel, and thank you very much, Tré, and of course Rabbi Steve for just having this opportunity. And thank you, Curtis, for everything you did with Rabbi Steve getting him out here initially. You provided the first burst of the exhaust from the rocket, and we're doing the general set down. So I really, really appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Listen, let me just interrupt for a second. Would it make sense, Daniel, if we just told people that we can post all of our contact stuff on the Torah Made Flesh Facebook page? I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't announce it, but can we do that as well?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do that, and then we can even try to tag it in this video. So yeah, absolutely, we can handle all of it.
The reason I'm saying that is because I don't want people to be concerned that they didn't get the spelling right, because Netzarim and T is a little bit tough. Sure. You know, some of the other things, Bible Pathway Adventures, maybe they put a plural when it should have been singular or whatever it is. But if we give the links, we'll still give them out here so people can kind of go to them sooner. But I just want to make sure if we can just post them on your page.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do that. And Tré just texted me and said everything right now is already in the description of the video.
Okay.
So we'll post them on
Facebook too. Thanks, Tré.
Thanks, Tré.
All right, Curtis.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the links are already up. So it's, the boys are well ahead of us on that. These guys know what they're doing. I was just going to say, really, thanks again. Had a wonderful time with the program. Excited to see where it goes, and some of the subject matter that can be discussed with the rubber hitting the road. So hats off to Tré and to Daniel for that. And thanks, guys, for the fellowship on that end and everything else. Been fantastic. And we're just enjoying where the Father's taking all of this. For us locally, it's real simple. You'll see the link there, but it's just www.shabbatgathering.com. And that's our little local fellowship website. That just makes it easy for people to contact or hook in locally here in Wellington. And from our international perspective and ministry perspective, that's the Bible Pathway Adventures that has more of the international reaches out. On both of them, there is the Donkey Speaks teachings. If anybody's interested in that, we do post the audios on that, and you can hook into those through either one of those websites. And as I say, these guys have already posted the links anyway. So yeah, so that's pretty much it from my end. Yeah.
All right. So most of you already know that you can reach us through M.T.O.I.org. We have a YouTube page. We have a Facebook page that you can like. We actually have a Facebook group that you could join. And so we have both of those things going on, as well as a website for BestShalomMC.org, Best Shalom Messianic Congregation. Probably hardly anybody ever goes to that one because mostly everything we do is through the M.T.O.I. site. But let's go ahead and we'll close this up in prayer. And again, I really appreciate so much my two new very close brothers, and Jason, Jordan, and Curtis Reid. I love you guys. I mean, you're tremendous. And of course, my feelings for Daniel, who is a new brother to me after coming to Sukkot and everything. I'm really excited about what he's going to be doing. And of course, Tré refers to me as Uncle Steve, or Uncle Rabbi Steve, whichever way he says it. So Tré's like a nephew to me. My kids and him and his brothers, they all think of themselves as cousins. So Tré has always been very close with me. And so I love you, brother. Okay, so let's go ahead and pray. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Father, we come before you, and we're just excited to try to be available to you. We're excited about the opportunity to be useful in the work that you're doing, to be useful in reaching and serving those that you are calling to your way, to your truth, and that, Father, that we might just be focusing on that it's your will and your desires, not our own agendas, but that we can focus you're trying to do. Father, M.T.O.I's desire is to be available to you and to the body of Messiah, to serve and to be a blessing in any possible way that we can. So, Father, we thank you for the opportunity. We thank you for those that you might draw to join hands with us in this effort. And that, Father, that you would bless all involved, those that are not only in the leadership, but those that are in the body, those that are the evangelists who are going to go out and tell everybody about this opportunity. We ask that it bear the fruit that you would desire, and that you would help us to never forget and never take our eyes off of the goal, which is helping everyone, including ourselves, transform and conform into the image of Yeshua, the image of your Son. So, Father, it's in his mighty name that we come together now, thanking and praising, bringing you glory and honor. It's in that name above all names we pray. Amen. Amen. I'm getting amen thing.
Yeah. Well, guys, it's truly been an honor to have you guys on. And I can't wait to see what the Father does with all this, and that, we can get some more programs together. And hey, it don't have to be a 1 night a week thing. We can have a rotation of 7 nights a week. Whatever he wants to do, I'm totally fine with. So if we can get everybody on the same page and, do a lot of answer thing, I think we're going to, once you get back, Rabbi, I think we need to figure that out and get with Curtis and try to figure out the logistics of that because of the time difference. And let's see what people say, guys. If you want it to go down, send your questions or just give us let us know. Say, hey, we would love to have that show, and we'll try to make it happen the best we can. So, want to wish everybody a great week, and shalom to everyone. Thank you.
Shalom, everyone. Thanks again.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, Trey.
Thank you all. Shavua Tov. Have a good week.
Shavua Tov.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching over here on Torah Made Flesh. You guys subscribe below. I know I wasn't doing it very long, but that's because I was over here running everything, so it makes it a little hard to be in the video the whole time. But yeah, all the links are in the description down below. Make sure to go on Facebook, because that's the best way to reach anybody on the channel. Totally great listening to these guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And shalom.